Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video I will create an expert advisor that will be based on ADX indicator. So you can see the indicator on my screen, and I don't know if it's visible, but I hope so. You can see that the period of the ADX is 200. Why 200? Well, the initial or the normal period or the initial period for ADX is 14, as you can see. But in my experience, period of 14 is not very helpful because it generates a lot of noise and a lot of short-term movements. Yeah, but that's not something that I want to work with. So I will just change my setting once again to 200, and I will explain the idea behind the ADX system that I will use for the EA. So what I noticed is that sometimes when there's a very strong trend to one side, this uptrend line and this downtrend line tend to diverge from each other. Okay, so there's this huge gap between these two lines. And what this tells me is that the market should start reversing to its average price soon, as you can see right here. Okay, so there's like this period when there's a huge gap between uptrend and downtrend, and then these two lines start to move closer to each other until they meet at this point. So that's what I will do today. I will try to spot these huge distances, and when these distances happen or these gaps happen, I will open position in the opposite direction, let's say. So for example, in this case we are in a downtrend, so right at this point I would open buy positions and I would hold them until the market returns to its average price. So I hope that makes sense. I'm not sure if it will be profitable, but it will be a nice exercise, yeah, because we will do things such as comparing the current gap to the previous gaps. We will do some average calculations from the array values. Yeah, we will do some standard deviations and stuff like this. So this will be interesting. Okay, and let's get to it. So I'll open my IDE and I'll just close these projects, save changes, yes, say, and close. So I'll go to my experts, to my YouTube folder, which is right here, and new file. So expert advisor, let's call it ADX gap EA. Sorry, I forgot an A right here. And for the parameters, we can start with one parameter, which will be the ADX period, type integer, initial value. Let's do 100, yeah, because when I'm finished with the EA, I will also optimize it. So for now, it's not important to set ADX period, basically, because we don't know what ADX period is the best one. We will find that out later. But for now, let's just stick it with 100. Next, and finish. Great. So this is what MQL5 generated for me. So I will just delete this on the init function because I won't need it in this case. I will delete this comment, and besides that, I think I will keep everything. Okay, so the first thing we have to do when creating expert advisors is that we have to make sure that we have all libraries imported, or all handlers prepared, and all global variables initialized, basically. So let's do that. So first one is include. So what do I have to include? So I have to include the trade/trade.mqh library, because I will use it for opening positions. And then I create an instance of this class or library. Then I need double ask and bid variables, and they will hold the ask price and the bid price. So that's very simple as well. Then I need ADX handle. Okay, so handle which will be used for storing the ADX indicator. So I think this is all I need to do right now. So let's continue. So now on init function, yeah, I do ADX handle is equal to I ADX. So now I'm accessing the built-in ADX indicator, and now I'll just fill in these input parameters. So for the current symbol, current period, and moving average period for the ADX indicator will be ADX period. So far easy. So that's that. Now on tick function. So the first thing that I have to do on tick function is to get the latest ask and bid price. It's something I have to do on every tick, and I will do it now because I don't want to forget to do it later. So ask is equal to symbol info double symbol ask, and bid is equal to symbol info double symbol bid. Perfect. So that's that. So now let's think about our next step. So if we go back here, basically what we will do is that we will spot the gap. Okay, so we have to have a function which will basically tell us whether there is a gap or not. Then we have to have a function which will open buy and sell positions. So depending on the current market state, let's say, we will open the opposite position. And then we have to have a function which will tell us whether the gap closed, meaning that these two lines basically meet. Okay, so there are three functions. Two of these functions are very simple to create. So the function which will open positions and the function which will basically tell us when these lines meet, they are extremely simple. Then the difficult one is the gap function. So why is that? So the reason is that we don't yet know basically what is a gap. Okay, so how do we spot the gap? How do we measure it basically? So that's the question that we will try to find an answer for in that gap function. So I will start with the simple functions. Okay, so I will start with opening positions and closing positions, therefore spotting the end or spotting when the lines are close to each other. And then the last position will be to detect the gap. So let's do it. So void function open positions, and now let's give it one positional argument which will be type. Okay, so we will have to input this type integer variable into this open positions function when we want to call this type, or let's rename it to call it signal, so it's more obvious. So this is going to be a signal. So if signal is equal to 1, so 1 will represent open by position. Okay, else if signal is equal to -1, which will basically mean that open sell position, and basically I don't have to do this else statement because it's obvious. So if it's not 1 or -1, we don't have, or we don't open position, any position. Okay, so it's pretty obvious. So basically we will receive a signal in this function, and based on its value we will either open buy position, sell position, or we won't open any position. Okay, so let's do it. So for buy position it's straight dot buy volume, let's go with 0.1 as it's not important for now. Symbol, ask price, and we don't want to specify any stop loss or take profit. And the reason is that we will close those positions on that crossover of these two lines. Okay, so we basically open position here somewhere, and then when this happens, we close that position. So we don't know when it happens, therefore we don't specify any stop loss or take profit. And let's give it a comment of buy. Now the same thing for sell. I will just change this right here, so bid price and sell. So as I said, it's extremely simple, and this is all we need to do now. Then we have to create a function which will basically say close positions, okay? Positions, and yeah, sorry, just one thing here. There is this. Perfect. Okay, so close position. So what we will do is that how to do this? Like the idea is very simple. We just receive a signal. Okay, so let's do it the same way. So signal. Okay, so it will require one positional argument called signal. And now, so for x equals 0, x lower than positions total, and we increase the x. Yeah, so now we are basically looping through all of those open positions. Just 1 second. Okay, I see that this shifted. Now it should be okay. Perfect. Yeah, and now we get the ticket for that position. Position get ticket. We get, let's say, type, which will be equal to position get integer for position type, and it's enough for us. Like we could also require the magic number, but since we are not working, or I did not specify the magic number in the input, and I didn't set the magic number for our positions, I don't have to do that. So if type is equal to the signal, so basically the signal will tell us which positions to close. So either we are closing buy positions or sell positions, or basically all positions, because if there is this crossover, then it doesn't, because it will be universal basically for both and sells. So we don't have to care about the signal. So this makes our life easier, and we just say trade position close for the ticket and deviation -1. So this makes our life easier. Okay, perfect. So on tick function we can do this open position, and for now let's input 0 because we don't know what the signal will be yet, because that's the first function we have to create, and then we do close positions. Yeah, but for the close positions it won't be that simple, because let's create in bool close. If close, then return. Simple. Okay, so this will take one positional argument, boolean variable, so true or false, called close. So if close is equal to true, we proceed and we close all open positions. If it's false, we don't do anything and we return immediately. Perfect. So now the difficult part. So return, so let's call it generate signal. Okay, so generate signal will be basically a function in which we will analyze the gap between the uptrend and downtrend line, and if the gap is large enough, let's say, then we will generate a signal. Okay, so for example in this case we would generate a signal of 1, which means buy, because there is a gap and this ADX downtrend is higher than the ADX uptrend, therefore there's a downtrend, yeah, and that's why we will generate a buy signal. So we would open buy signal right here, so buy position, and then we would close it at this point. I hope that makes sense. So now, how to spot these gaps? So as I said, it will be a little bit more difficult, and the reason for it is that basically the scale of the ADX changes with different periods. So we can't do something like if the gap is higher than value of 10, okay? We can't do that, and the reason is that scale changes. So for example, if I would change the ADX period to something like 50, okay, so let's just check the scale, so 24 and 5, now you can see that the scale changes, yeah, so now we are at 36 and 4. So we can't do it with explicit values such as 10, yeah, or 15 or anything like this. So how to do this? How to calculate this in such a way that it's like universal approach for all of these periods? So I will just return to my 200 period because yeah, there's much less noise. So what I will do is that I will basically, let's say that we are starting somewhere here, okay? So this is where we start. So this is where we deploy our EA, so it starts at this time. So what I will do is that I will analyze the previous gaps, okay? So I will, for example, go 1000 iterations back, and I will collect 1000 data points, yeah, and each data point will basically hold a value of the gap between uptrend and downtrend line for that specific time. And then what I can simply do is that I can calculate the average gap, I can calculate the standard deviations of that data array, yeah, basically of those values, and then I can spot these outliers very, very easily, or not outliers, but basically values that are higher than the average, which will basically tell me this is higher gap than it should be, or bigger gap than it should be, therefore open, sell, or buy position. So let's do exactly that. So I will divide this code, or I will divide this function into multiple steps. So the step 1 is get enough data. Okay, so I will create global variables, so double, let's call it uptrend array, then I will do down trend array, and now I will do a gap array. Okay, so uptrend array is an array in which I will store values for the uptrend line. Downtrend array is, yeah, I forgot something, I'll just change this. So downtrend array is trend array is something, or is an array in which I will store values for the downtrend line, and gap array is an array in which I will store the difference between uptrend and downtrend values. Very simple. I'll go back here and I will create one more input variable. So, or input integer, and let's call it analysis period. So this is basically with how many values we want to work with. Okay, so I'll go back here, and on init function I will say array size, so ADX. Now I forgot the names of those. So uptrend array it will have the size of analysis period, and reserve size is 0 to 3. So now just change downtrend, and here will be gap array. So now we are prepared basically to continue here. Okay, so step 1, get enough data. So what I will do now is that I will just call the copy buffer function. Indicator handle is ADX handle. Buffer number. So for uptrend it's 1. Starting position is 0. Count is analysis period. Great. Analysis period, and we want to store this into uptrend array. Now the same thing goes for the downtrend array. I just change the name of an array in here, and the number of the buffer is 2. Great. So we have our data stored in our arrays. I will just do one thing. I will just create this integer signal, and I will return signal at the end of this function. Okay, so now step 2. Okay, step 2. Calculate the gap. Okay, so now for integer x is equal to 0, x is lower than analysis period, and x plus plus. Now we basically do gap array at position 0, x is equal to absolute value of uptrend array at position x subtracted downtrend array at position x. So this should work also fine. So now step 3, calculate average gap and standard deviation. Standard deviation. Okay, so we can either do this manually, but how long is this video? 22 minutes. I will show you an easier way. You just have to include another library, which is called math/stat/normal.mqh. And basically this library gives you so many functions related to math and statistics, and it makes our life easier. So now let's create a double variable called mean or average gap, which will be equal to math mean of the gap array. So now basically this function calculates the average value of all values inside this array, and this is the gap array which stores all of these gap values. So now we have the average gap, and now let's do so standard deviation will be math standard deviation, and basically the idea is the same. Now it gives us the standard deviation of this array in here, which is the gap array. So now we have to set some boundaries, let's say. Okay, so how many standard deviations will we add to the average gap so it creates like our threshold? So we can do either 1, 2, or 3, or 4, I don't know. So I think the best way to do this is just to create another input. So input double, and let's call it stdv multiplier, which will equal initial to 2. Okay, and then we will do let's call it double thr, which will stand for the threshold, and that will be equal to average gap plus stdv times stdv multiplier. Okay, so this is like our threshold. So the idea is that if our current gap is higher than this threshold value, then we have our gap that is large enough. Okay, so now we have to do the last thing and that is step 4, get current gap and check its size. Okay, so current gap is equal to, so now I didn't set these. Do you know what I will do just to make also our life easier is that I will say array set as series for uptrend, array flag is true. So now I will just like revert the indexing of these arrays, so this will be easier for us. So the current gap will be equal to the absolute value, or we can just like say gap array at position 0. So this should be it. I think the indexing should be correct here, because since we set these arrays as series, which it means that the most recent values will be stored at the position 0. Okay, so this should be it. So now signal is equal to, so okay, so now also it's not that simple. We also have to know, in order to generate the correct signal, which of these lines is higher. So let's call it trend. So if up trend array position 0 is above down trend array at position 0, then the trend will be 1, otherwise -1. Okay, and now let's do something like this. Okay, so bool gap okay, which will basically store true or false statement, and here we will check current gap is higher or equal to the THR, and signal, now we will assign the signal value, so trend, so if gap okay and trend is equal to 1, then the signal is equal to 1. Otherwise, if gap okay and trend is equal to -1, then the signal will be equal to -1. And if none of these options are true, then the signal is 0. So this should be our generate signal function, hopefully. So now what I will do is that I will just say generate signal, and I will store the returning value of this function into the signal integer into this signal variable. Now I will pass this signal variable into this open positions function, and now we have to deal with the last thing, and that is close positions. So let's do something like bool was crossover. Okay, so generate signal comes after, comes before the close position. So we can basically use these uptrend array and downtrend array arrays. Yeah. So bool was equals to false, return was. So if uptrend array at position 0 is higher than downtrend array at position 0, and uptrend array at position 0 was position 1 was below downtrend array at position 1, or, so I will just put these into the bracket. So now I'm just simply checking for the simple crossover of those lines, or I will take this and I will just change these these things, and I don't have to do the if statement. I just can assign this or do you know what, I will put this into double brackets, so just it's clear what I'm doing. Okay, so nice. And in here I can do something like this. Of course, if you want to be very professional, let's say, what you can also do is that you can just take this function and input it here. So it's like, yeah, so the return value of this function is an input for this function. So you can do it like this as well. So let's check it. So this will be very interesting because so far we didn't check anything. Okay, so this is like basically the whole EA finished, but we didn't check if it works as we progressed. So this will be very interesting to see. So yeah, let's strategy tester is right here. So this is another EA. So now let's find my YouTube folder, just right here, and this is called ADX something, I guess. ADX gap. Okay, so let's try this. Okay, so it seems like we didn't open any positions. So let's, yeah, also one more thing. I will just change the symbol because I was just testing something before. Yeah, so now it works. Great. Okay, so there's first obvious mistake that I forgot is that since I am running this on every tick, I open positions on every tick. And I also do this in the opposite way because here I should open by position. Okay, so there are two ways that we have to fix. So the first way is to generate signal -1 and 1. Yeah, of course, my mistake. And the second thing is that static integer last bar is equal to 0, integer bars is equal to I bars, symbol period, and I say if last bar equals to bars, then return, and I will update the last bar to bars. So now basically this executes only once per every new candlestick. So just check this. Okay, so nice. So let's start this again. Okay, so what what happened here? This is a nice thing to see. Okay, so because this is exactly the point where the gap is very large, and the same thing goes for this. Okay, so this is a good thing because basically we succeeded with the detection of these values. So now where is our error? So obviously it does not do a great job with detecting the crossover and closing the positions. So let's check it. Let's check it now. So obviously, as you can see, I do a lot of mistakes as well. Let me just check. Yeah, 33 minutes. That's still okay. Okay, so now was crossover. So what did I do wrong in here? I think we can split this into two lines so it's more visible, basically. Yeah. So uptrend array. Okay. Let's just try to increase this. Like this is the first thing that comes to my mind. Let's try this once again. Yeah, so now it works. Okay, perfectly. Perfect. So so now it basically works as it should be. One more thing, you can see here, I will start this over. You can see here that basically when we are working with so many positions, which I will also change in a bit, the issue is that the EA doesn't do a good job closing them all at once. So I have to do one very simple trick, and that is that I will create another for loop in here, which will be called, for example, z, and I will just say 0 then, for example, 10 and z++. So I just run this for loop in which I close all of those positions 10 times. So for example, when the EA doesn't succeed, for example, or if it closes only 8 positions out of 10 in the first for loop, then it goes 9 more times and it has 9 more tries to close the remaining positions. So this should take care of this. So let's check it, and it does. As you can see, now it closes all of these positions very, very nicely. Okay, so let's discuss what to improve here. Of course, the bad thing is that, or like, it doesn't have to be a bad thing, but it increases your risk dramatically, is that you open basically these positions on every candlestick. Yeah, because the gap, for example, in this case, you can see that the gap at this point is large enough and it still increases. Okay, so it keeps opening positions on every new candlestick, and therefore it multiplies our risk dramatically. So there are multiple fixes to this. The first fix is that we can only limit EA to opening only one position. So for example, this position. Yeah. Of course, the downside is that we don't catch the peak. Okay. So basically we would open a sell position here and then the price continues to go up. So we would be stuck with this position in a drawdown. So that's not a good thing. But as you can see, the crossover happens at this point and we still... Okay, yeah, we do. It's just the graphic thing. Okay, so we close these positions at this point right here. Of course, the second thing we can do is that we can basically select a step. Okay, so for example, if we open a sell position at this candlestick, the EA waits, for example, 5 candlesticks and then it checks over. So we would open a sell position here, then wait for 5 candlesticks, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then open here, and then just wait again. And I think this might be a good idea to like manage our risk well. So let's do it. So let's create input integer waiting period is equal to 7. Okay, so we will be waiting 7 candlesticks and then check again. So how to implement this? Let's go to the opening positions and let's create a static integer last entry bar equal to 0. I will also do one thing in here. I will say that the bars variable is a global variable, therefore I can use it in my function in here, and I will say something like if bars is lower or is. So now, yeah, if bars is lower than last entry bar plus waiting period, then return. Yeah, so something like this, and I will initialize this as a bars. Okay, and now when I open buy or sell position, I just update the last entry bar to bars, and this should take care of the problem. So let's check it once again. So now we should have a gap of 7. And it looks like we do. So first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and on the 7th we open next one, and then we check, and on the 7th we open the next one. So this is a nice thing, and as you can see, it manages our risk pretty well. So this is a nice thing to do. Okay, so yeah, this is not that nice, but yeah, this happens. Okay, so I think the EA is... Oh! This I did not expect, to be honest with you. This is... Okay, this might be just a luck, because... Let's do something like this. Okay, so I did not expect... Well, yeah, you can see that there are... Okay, so I didn't expect this. I hope you can see it because my webcam is in the lower right corner. But basically now when I span this out, like, this is not the worst system, to be completely honest with you. Yeah, I haven't done any optimization to it, so there's a lot of room for improvement, let's say. And for example, here you can see that this is just huge drawdown and a huge loss. But like this is much more nicer system than I originally thought that it will be. So if you ask me, I'm pretty happy about this. Let's try this for USD yen, for example. And here, yeah, here it loses money. Okay, so it might work for some markets. I will just pen this out so you can see. Yeah, you still can see because there's a webcam here, but basically it loses money. Okay, so let's optimize this, and then let's talk about ways of improving this, or possible ways of how to improve this. So I will just do genetic optimization because I don't want to spend a lot of time here. I will use only MQL5 cloud network, so it's fast. And let's talk these parameters. So how should we optimize this? So I think the good way to do this is, for example, start 200, start 20, step the same, and stopping value 500. Analysis period. So let's do 100, start, increase by 50, and let's go to 2000. Standard deviation multiplier. So this is very important. So let's do something like this, and let's go to 5. And waiting period 2, increase by 2, and let's go to 20. So this should be pretty fast. Yeah. Also the time frame is 15 minutes, and let's see what will happen. I'll just filter out 0 trades and losses and drawdowns. Oh yeah, also there's one thing that I did not basically check, and you can see that there are some nice results. So basically, since this EA opens a lot of positions, as you saw, using 0.1 lot size might be detrimental for this. Yeah, so maybe using 0.01 would give us much better results, but who knows. Anyway, let's check it. So as you can see, we get a lot of backtests, or a lot of results here. So most of them are in red, and the reason for that is that it has only, for example, 19 positions, 17 positions, which is not a lot over the last 5 years. Okay, so that's why this is in a red, but it has great profit factor. But since it has only a few positions, it's not something we can work with. What I like let's find a setting that I like. 300 positions, it's not that bad, and it has a nice profit factor and a drawdown of 34%, which is pretty huge. But as I said, if we would like run this with 0.01%, then we would divide this drawdown by 10. Therefore, it would be a nice drawdown. Yeah. Do you know what? Well, let's do this. Let's go for 0.01 and let's run this generic optimization again for decreased lot size, and let's see what will happen. Okay. Okay, so optimization results. Yeah, so now you can see that as we basically decrease the lot size, you can see that the number of total trades went up. That's because we have more margin to work with. And the results, yeah, like this might be nice. You can see 255, 464 positions with 4% drawdown. This is something that I can work with. So let's stop this and let's just run some of these results. So let's find some result that I like. So this is one I like. Yeah, and this is not bad. Like, it's not the best, as you can see, but it's not the best, and this looks pretty nice. Yeah, this looks pretty nice. Let's do one more optimization on. I want to do Euro USD. So where is my Euro USD? It's right here. So let's just do one last optimization for Euro USD, and then we will discuss how to improve something like this. Yeah. Or we can discuss it now. It really doesn't make a difference after all. Okay, so how to improve this? So when you want to improve an EA, the best way to go about it is to recognize parts of it where it doesn't work as efficiently as it could. So obviously, in our case, the worst thing that can happen to EA is that it basically catches or it opens a lot of positions in a trend that continues to rise up. The thing about this is that you can't predict what the market will do, therefore you don't know if the trend you are entering into is the one that will be over soon or if it will continue. So that's something we can predict. What we can predict is the distance in. Okay, so this is nice as well. So we can predict or we can change the distance or the gap between each of those positions, which basically gives us a grid system. Yeah, which can be a way of improving this EA. Also, we can like play with the lot size a lot. Okay, so as we open additional positions, we can either increase the lot size or decrease it. In this case, I would decrease it because our closing condition will stay the same no matter the lot size. So I would just decrease the lot size as we continue to open more and more positions. So that could also decrease our risk as well. Well, this is really nice. This is a really nice backtest. Let me do one thing. I will just check this, how it would perform on data it didn't see earlier. Yeah, and it's overfitted. Okay, so you can see that not every backtest would work in the real market. Okay, so I hope that this video was interesting. I think it was, because we basically explored a new way of how to trade the ADX. And as you can see, it can be profitable on some symbols or trading instruments. So, sorry, one more thing. Let's try this on gold. yeah, let's try this on gold and let's see what will happen. And yeah, so it was interesting because of this, because basically when you have an indicator, there are unlimited ways of how to use it, basically. Yeah, because this is not a normal way of using ADX, but with your imagination, let's say, you can play with it and you can explore new ways of how to trade it. So this is gold. There are some pretty good results as well, as you can see. Yeah, this is not bad. Let's try, for example, it's not bad. Yeah, it's not the best system, but it's not bad. Okay, so anyway, thank you for watching and I will see you in the next video. Bye.